Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Design Recharge. I'm your host, Diane Gibbs, and I am excited to introduce you to my friend, Matt Dawson. Matt is not just a regular guy. Somehow he has these amazing superpowers that he's able to run a freelance business, start a design conference, work a 40-hour-a-week job, be a husband and a dad, and then I'm sure there's some other amazing things that I didn't mention. But Matt, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Diane. I really appreciate you having me and all the kind words as well.
Well, it is really amazing being able to do that and that you're still nice to people, I think, probably,
Yeah, that's important.
So I had talked to Matt like in January maybe, and we had done like a Skype lunch prior, just as he'd come to the show or I'd seen or somehow we connected on social media. Mm-hmm. And then we had a great lunch, and then you were telling me that you were starting this conference. And then this year was going to be right after Creative South. So Creative South was one weekend, and then Crop was going to be the next weekend.
The very next,
in Baton Rouge. And Matt and his wife, Ariadna, came to Creative South, and they were so chill the whole time. And it was just amazing to me that they could keep it all together, and they weren't, like, I had anxiety, and I was just running volunteers, but so I don't know how you did it, but it was amazing. And it was super successful.
We had to. We didn't want to miss it. It was my second year, and it was Ariadna's first. And I think just after all the planning, we needed that weekend to go and just be forced to be away from computers and phone calls, and it's easier said than done. We still had to sneak away a few times and take care of stuff, but it was nice to just enjoy the weekend.
So one thing, and Johnny just mentioned it, was that you guys sold out. And so let's jump in a little bit into into your background.
Sure.
And where your interest for design, and then we'll get into Crop. So let's do that first.
Gotcha. Well, I won't really do the whole I knew I wanted to be a designer from an early age thing. I mean, I've always enjoyed art. I liked art in high school, and did a lot of drawing when I was a kid, but never one of those things where like you just knew from like 5 years old that you're going to do this. I went to college not really knowing what I wanted to do, and I ended up kind of piggybacking with one of my best friends, Andy. We enrolled at LSU and did the landscape architecture program together. Mm-hmm. And that was a 5-year program. I was on a scholarship, and I waste is not the right word, but I used up a lot of that scholarship on that program, and then I kind of worked my way out of it, and I got into design accidentally along the way. While I wasn't enjoying landscape, I was really enjoying making signs for like these proposals that we were doing, and I was really enjoying laying out my graphics and my pitches and presentations. Like, I was loving that. I wasn't necessarily loving like the math and the grading of the land and all that stuff, but like I didn't realize that what I was kind of into was the design aspect of it. And then I had a conversation with a teacher, and she just kind of gave me some kudos, and said that like maybe this is a viable path for you. Like, have you thought about it? And sure enough, like I looked into it and got interested, and at the same time, I was also playing in a band. And since I had some Photoshop experience, I became the band's resident graphic designer. And it was just ridiculous. Posters and promotions and stuff. Like, I didn't really know what I was doing. I was kind of teaching myself along the way. I was the jerk at Kinko's complaining that my print looked wrong because I did it in RGB. And I didn't know any better, because like I'd never even, I'm learning it all, like before I even started the actual program. And, like I learned a lot along the way. And, that's back whenever every graphic designer wants to do album covers
Right.
and, like gig posters and this and that. So I kind of fell into it. That's really how I got my start. And
So if you were at LSU and you had changed your major, would you have lost your scholarship?
well, the particular scholarship was for 4 years. And I spent 3.5 years in the landscape architecture program. And then I took a semester off to build a portfolio to enter to, apply for the design program. You had to apply for it there. And, that pretty much exhausted my 4 years, and that was it. Like I didn't have to pay anything back. It was kind of a, what you make of it scholarship sort of thing. And luckily I didn't have to pay any back. I hope I don't.
That's
Yeah.
You would have found out by now.
Hopefully, yeah,
They would
hopefully
have
by now.
they would have found
Yeah.
you. Well, that's good. So did you like plants?
I always liked architecture. Growing up, like I was a nerdy little kid that, like really liked architecture books and, would get Frank Lloyd Wright books from the library and just kind of nerd out on, like these things that I thought, were cool. And I thought an extension of that, like whenever I learned about landscape architecture, I thought it would be neat, but obviously I didn't put a whole lot of thought into it. It was kind of it was a very 18-year-old kid decision to just do something on a whim. But you live and you learn.
Yeah. So where did you grow up? Did you grow up in
Grew up in Louisiana.
Louisiana?
Yeah, grew up
Okay.
in Louisiana, in a little town called Lake Charles, and it's about 2 hours west of Baton Rouge. So, grew up there, and like most Louisiana kids, like you get over to the big state school and move to Baton Rouge, and that's where things really kind of began for me, I feel like.
Right. I mean, I went to Auburn, so SEC all the way.
We know all about you.
Anyway, I'm proud even if we don't win. So why create a design conference? I know you had been to Creative South. So what was it in you that you were like, I've got to do this? And why Baton Rouge?
Well, I actually hadn't been to Creative South like at the start of the crop planning. I'd spoken at a conference for Lamar Advertising, the billboard company. They have like a nationwide retreat every couple of years, and they bring people in to talk about certain things. I went in and talked about typography.
Did you wear your baseball cap?
No, I actually had really short hair back then. My hair grows really fast. This was like just 2 years ago, but I had really short hair.
That was kind of random if people weren't watching earlier. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's fine. And while I was hanging out there with all of those guys, I used to work for them, so like I knew a lot. And just like the whole vibe of like hanging out and like just listening to like what they learned during the day and actually being able to contribute to some of those things that they learned, really just, like turned a light bulb on. And I was like, well, like maybe we should have something for Baton Rouge in general to, to where all of the creatives at the various agencies, because design's a much bigger thing now. And, there's a lot of talent there. And every time I go back, like I've made so many friends, just through graphic design there that I didn't know the 15 years that I lived there.
Right.
So I felt like it was a perfect time for something for that city.
All right. So Baton Rouge, kind of explain how big Baton Rouge is for people who don't know. And there are a few schools in and around that area, right? Yeah,
there are a good handful of schools. There's obviously LSU in Baton Rouge. There's Southern University. There's Southeastern, about 50 minutes away. You've got a lot of schools in New Orleans. You've got
Which
schools,
really is about an hour away, maybe 45 minutes.
Yeah, 45, 50 minutes as well. So there are a lot of universities, and and community colleges throughout the state. And Louisiana is not a big state, so they're all relatively, convenient to get to Baton Rouge from. So that was a huge help as well. And I mean, just being a student there myself, like the time I spent in Baton Rouge, like through like all the experiences I had there, like both ups and downs, like they're all fundamental to like who I am today. And just Louisiana pride runs deep. It doesn't really matter where you are. So I just thought it was a perfect opportunity to give something back to where we call home.
So that wouldn't be that big of a deal if you lived there, but you don't. You actually live and work in Atlanta. And how long have you lived and worked in Atlanta?
We've been here for 3 years now. We came up in February of 13. So yeah.
Okay, so getting back to crops, so you had never been to Creative South, but you did the Lamar thing, and that was with all the Lamar partners, but it was in Baton Rouge?
Yeah, Lamar's corporate office is in Baton Rouge, and
Okay.
I worked a few places before there, but that was my last job before we moved, and it was great. Like I loved it there. Like they've just got amazing people, and they try to do really cool things, and I wouldn't have left if it wasn't the right time to do so.
Right.
But so that was where I was whenever we decided to move.
And so you moved and you started working at another as an in-house designer.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to, kind of advance my career and take on a larger role with a whole lot more responsibility than I anticipated. But it was good for us at the time because my wife was getting a promotion and we were about to be parents. So everything aligned. And, we went there and I was in-house for about 2.5 years. Over that, I recently have switched things up as we talked about the other day. But.
So now you still work 40 hours a week at a kind of boutique design agency in Atlanta.
Yes. Yeah, I've been there for about a month.
Right after Creative South, right?
Yeah. I found out,
right after Crop.
Yeah, I found out the Friday of Creative South. I got an email, and I was like, "Oh wow, the stage keeps getting better and better." So, yeah.
All right, so it was a big week for you, or a big 10 days. That was one question I asked: is how supportive was your work as you were planning this? And I think another thing, I know with Mike and Karen with Creative South, they really work together well, and it's something that they really feel like as a family that they want to do. And I think if Ariadna wasn't right there with you doing this, I think it would be hard to do. So her role she took on a lot of responsibility with Crop as well, right?
Oh yeah, it's definitely both of our thing. I brought it to her not under the idea that I was going to do it myself. Like I brought it to her like, hey, do you want to do this with me? Because we work really well together. I mean, like we've been together forever, and like we just click and get each other, and we balance each other out. Things I think of, she doesn't. Things she thinks of, I don't. So there's a great balance with working together, and it was kind of perfect.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But
what?
I was gonna say, my previous employers were super supportive of what I was trying to do, which was a huge help for anybody that wants to do this. I mean, you have to have people that support you and that believe in you. And like I couldn't have asked for better management that allowed me to travel as frequently as I do, and kind of work remote and take care of things when I can, sort of deal. So that was awesome.
That is really important and really nice that they believed in that kind of vision as well, I think. Okay, so what do you drink, or what do you eat, or whatever? How are you able to do all of these things at the same time?
It's mostly lack of sleep is the simple answer. But luckily over 16 years of, you know, not being used to a whole lot of sleep, like just coming from bands and college projects and late night work projects and starting to freelance, like I've conditioned myself to be able to run pretty efficiently on a few hours of sleep. But I mean, it's really just about striking a balance and staying motivated and like having a drive. Like I wanted to do this really bad, so like I made sure that I took the necessary steps. And like part of it's sacrifice, like not in a negative sense. Like you don't want to sacrifice what you do during the day.
Right.
I don't want to sacrifice my family time, so I sacrifice the amount of sleep I get, but that's okay. Because luckily I can function that way. And
So how many hours of sleep do you get? Because Peter's saying 4 hours,
uh,
3 or 2.
I get about 5 hours a night, which isn't bad.
It's not so bad. Oprah would not like that. Do you know that she said that that's one of the ways that you are able to look better and feel better when you're older?
Yeah, I guess it's taken its toll for sure. But
No, not the way you look. I mean, like when you're 60. Not. I
oh
mean, you
yeah,
look
well,
great, but that, like, I don't know. Maybe.
well, hopefully it'll slow down by the time I reach 60. But I don't really want to sacrifice time with my family. Like we get so little time together as it is. Like I would much rather stay up till 2 or 3 o'clock, but get to play with my daughter. Like
Right. Absolutely.
and stuff. So
But I guess it's that this other stuff is so important, and you feel like it's so important
mhm.
that you would rather. I mean, that it's not something that's an oh, well, maybe I'll do this later in a few years. It's that I need to do this now. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Okay, so I bet you're probably really good at time management. Are you? Do you get distracted easy?
I actually do kind of get distracted easily, but
Really?
it's never with anything. It's always with some other project or always like some other kind of like work related thing. It's never, oh, today looks nice outside, I'm going to go for a bike ride. Like it's not that kind of distraction. It's like, let me open up this file because this idea just came into my head and I want to add it to it. Like it's those kind of distractions.
Well, that's probably some good. It's still kind of functioning correctly. Let me read Peter's comment. Have crap conference or CS17 at Oprah's studio. That'd be pretty cool. Profit from her free money giveaways. Hey, that's an idea, Peter, for sure. All right. So how did you choose Baton Rouge? And I know Kent was really interested in this because he's in Mississippi, and Baton Rouge is only 3 hours away. And so how many people do you think came from the Louisiana kind of area? I know you had people that came from a much wider pool than you even thought was going to be there.
Yeah, well, I mean, like I said, Baton Rouge just like it really, it's where I consider home. So there's really no question of anywhere else where it would be. Uh, and it's just kind of one of those things where, like we weren't quite sure what it was going to be or where it was going to reach. Like we thought maybe it was gonna get a lot of people from the schools and some of like the in-town people, but we reached a far broader audience than we anticipated. Like we had people from like 8 states come in, which kind of like just blew my mind. Like we'd update the registration sheets every now and then and be like, whoa, there's 2 people from Utah coming, or like somebody from Wisconsin's coming down, which is really cool. Like I mean, Louisiana's a fun place, so it was really neat to have some first time Louisiana goers, come down for like this thing that we were building. So that was super cool.
That is cool. All right. So how did you market it this? I know we're out of order if I ask this question right now, but I can't remember where it lives. And so you were talking about your reach. So what were you doing? Because I think that's another big worry. And this wasn't just a 3-month kind of planning thing. You had been thinking about this for a few years and kind of getting people in place, right?
Yeah, I thought about it for I think the entire planning process was like 14 months. And I don't know if that's right or wrong. I don't know if it's too much or too little. It worked for our needs this year. Um, but yeah, I wanted to plan it way, way ahead. And I really had no clue how to get the word out until like I kind of started brainstorming. And, AdFed has a really strong presence in Baton Rouge. I'm friends with a lot of those people, have worked with a lot of those people. Um, so, I had the opportunity to announce the idea in general through one of the monthly luncheons that they have, and that just that worked really really well as far
Was
as
that way early, or was that
it
more?
was super early. It was 11 months before crop.
Wow.
Yeah, so I announced it. Not details, just kind of like, hey, we're going to be bringing Baton Rouge's Louisiana's first design conference here, next spring. It's a 2-day event. Like we're super excited about it. Like sign up for a mailing list, and that was it. That was all we really said that day. And then we started getting more and more interest, and it turned into a 2-day event. And then once I announced the lineup in the fall, we did another luncheon, and we did a dribble meetup that night. So, like just use the resources that you have. And like we were very fortunate to be able to work with AdFed on getting the word out. That was super cool. We did some stuff with AIGA as well. AIGA has a really strong presence in New Orleans, which is right around the corner. And then the rest was just word of mouth, which can't ask for anything better than that. Like for people to talk about like what you're doing. That's kind of
So
cool.
it has to do a lot with you and Ariadna, that who you were as people and who you were in the design community.
Hmm.
And um, it wasn't that this was brand new. It was that you were building on something you had already built. And I think that may be something that a lot of people who, if you're new to a city or if you're in a city and you don't really have all those connections yet, that's what you need to really focus on building.
Hmm.
So do you think that would be a good place for people to start? Because you had been in Baton Rouge working professionally for 10 years.
Yeah, I mean, I lived there for 15. I was working professionally for about 8, and like we we made so many connections being there that's honestly, I mean, how we really got such a good foot in is like knowing the people that we did and the venues and knowing where to go to for this or that. And if you don't have that, you build a team that does. And
Right.
luckily for us, our team also had similar resources. So we were very, very fortunate, to have the reach we did you know, to put it together the way we did.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so um, it had a huge success in its inaugural year, which is amazing. So some of it's word of mouth, some of it's people
Hmm.
um, and just putting together this. But so one of the things I always am amazed at Mike about is that he has this big team and these people, and he kind of lets them go. And unless we need him, we don't have to bother him so much. Maybe he doesn't feel like that at all. But how do you build that team? And you know how how supportive were you? Talked about your bosses in Atlanta, but
Hmm.
how supportive were maybe some of your colleagues and your team people that were in Baton Rouge?
They're very supportive, and I think the whole reason we picked who we picked um, was because we saw, you know, we saw what they could bring to the table. Like we knew their work ethic, we knew their drive, and we knew that the idea was something that they supported. Um, like we asked everybody, like we had conversations with each person, and everybody brought something different. Like this year was, like crop week was like go time, and that's really where everybody kind of shined. Because a lot of it throughout the year, was kind of like a little bit of work here and there. Um, but crop week, like everybody just stepped up and, like pulled their weight, and like it was like, okay, that's exactly why we pick these people.
So how many people were on that team?
It's just five of us. It's Ariadna, myself, and then three more people.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's not very many.
It's not.
Um,
We might change that up. But then again, like you end up with that. You could end up with the too many cooks in the kitchen scenario. But like we worked really well together, and yeah, we'll probably keep it around that.
so nobody felt overtaxed or overburdened. I would think that that would be something that you would have a hard time. And another thing I always think is, you're still kind of doing a freelance business, or you're still doing your 40-hour work week. How do you kind of manage when because it probably, I would think the weeks leading up to, and then maybe the week after, you're just kind of spent, and you're just really focused full time on this. Did you have to take off time from work to do this the weeks leading up to?
I took off the week of, like I went to Creative South Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and then we hopped down to Baton Rouge that Sunday, and I was there all week for crop week. Um, Throughout the rest of the planning process, though, I'd taken off a few days here and there. But like my biggest thing this year was for me to learn all the ins and outs of it, because I wanted to know how everything worked.
Hmm.
Because I feel like in the future, like I can better delegate things if I myself know how it works. Like I've worked at too many places and had friends that work at too many places where, um, like the main person doesn't know all the little nuances of each and every department, or you
Hmm.
know, or part of whatever's going on. So I thought that figuring all that out myself this year was like, was going to be instrumental to, improving on subsequent years. So,
So did you have people that were over specific jobs, or did you just have you, Ariana, and three other people that were just like, hey, we're all going to do this in here, multitasks that each one of us are going to do? Or did those people have specific titles and specific roles?
loosely they had specific roles. We had my buddy Drew taking care of the web stuff.
Hmm.
Um, our friend Jason, who's an amazing PR guy, you know, would get all the PR stuff set up, and fortunately, he also worked at the venue. Um, and then my buddy Levi ended up being like kind of our hospitality coordinator. He was running himself ragged backstage, making sure everybody had things. So they did have specific roles that they excelled at, but for the most part, we all kind of joined in that week and just did everything, like whether or not it's taking out trash or giving this person a ride over here or that. I think next year though, I'll be able to really focus on certain things and kind of see who'd be a good fit for this or that. But yeah.
So crop was how many people maxed when it sold out? How many people was that?
325.
325. So that's
Mhm.
amazing that your first year was that. So there was definitely need and desire in that.
Sure,
It was
yeah.
a very affordable ticket,
Hmm.
and you really pushed, I think, early on to get that. And I think that um, that it is a good reason why you sold out. But um, if somebody else was doing it, what would you tell them in regards to setting their price? What was important for maybe the first time and then maybe the second or in subsequent years?
In my experience with pricing things, both like personally for like my, the rate that I charge people, that's the one
Sure.
thing, it's the one thing I wish they taught in school, because, I think a lot of times we don't know how to value ourselves. And, you know, as far as price points for crop, we didn't really know how to value it. So we had to kind of look at other things, um, you know, put it against our newness, as far as, like a brand new conference, and, come up with something that was affordable for the people that we were trying to reach as well. We didn't want to do something that's unattainable for students because there's so many students that can benefit from it.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't want to do something that was so, exorbitant that people are like, well, who do they think they are? It's their first year kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So we wanted it to be modestly priced. But what I would say is that, like, you shouldn't pigeonhole yourself and like paint yourself into a corner price wise, because like I feel like increases are necessary, because as you make things better, as you provide more value for your attendees,
Right.
it's got to come from somewhere. Like we did Mardi Gras balls for 10 years and we never increased the price, and that was a huge mistake, because once they got more expensive, anytime you'd even talk about a price increase, you'd get like major kickback.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't ever want it to be anything that breaks the bank. We always want it to be accessible.
All right, so you must have gotten some vendor donations or support. So how do you do that? Because you can't really do it all alone. Now, one thing I think was great was that you and Ariana had both worked at the venue.
Mm-hmm.
And so that really helped in selling the conference to this venue.
Right. It's such a professional venue. I mean, like, you walk in and it's kind of like a breathtaking space.
Mm-hmm.
So, we're very fortunate to have that. This first year was kind of tough, because a lot of people didn't really want, didn't really want to like give money to something that was brand new, so
Mm-hmm.
there's some reluctancy there, which is perfectly understandable. So what we had in turn were a lot of in-kind sponsorships, and that was, that was very instrumental. And,
So
and
explain to somebody who doesn't know what an in-kind, I know what that is, and
sure.
maybe everybody does, but maybe somebody doesn't.
Well, so our in-kind sponsors were people that we approached, like with our sponsorship pitch. But if they're reluctant to give money, they might give a service, So if it's a venue that you want, but maybe you can't foot the bill for that, maybe they would in-kind half of it or 3/4, and then you end up paying a reduced cost. Or if it's printed materials,
Mm-hmm.
they see the value in providing a sponsorship where its core demographic are designers, and people that could potentially use their services. So they're like, okay, this is a smart fit. Let's go ahead and print everything for it.
Right.
So those are things that you don't have to spend budget on. But like, you're also getting a great value from somebody in-kinding it.
Did you have local printers or were you going to online national?
We had local. Like, we're real big into local as far as Louisianians go. We had Vivid Ink printing. They did an amazing job in making us look like, Jason Craig's not gonna like this, but making us look really legit. They gave us, so much stuff that helped really dress the venue up. We had local printers provide our lanyards and our badges. Everything was local. I can't really think if we had any really national sponsors. We had Adobe give away some Creative Cloud subscriptions, which was amazing. But for the most part, we tried to keep it in that bubble.
Cool. Okay, so who was going and doing these sponsorships? Blah. Let me do that again.
Okay.
Who was going and doing these sponsorship pitches? Were these things that you were doing over the internet or online or on the phone from Atlanta, or were you doing some of these in person?
For the most part, it was over the phone and through email. And that kind of seems to be the norm nowadays, at least from like everything that I've heard and, like our past experiences. So many people don't have time for face-to-faces nowadays. So it's, it was acceptable to send them an email. It was weird if you're not used to being a salesman, because I'm not a salesman. But after you get your first couple under your belt, you feel more comfortable, and you go and revise that pitch, and people ended up seeing the value and being a part of it. and there was some hit or miss stuff, but mostly hit.
Cool. Well, good. Okay, so um, who was really essential? Was it you? Was it Ariadna, or was it somebody else in making connect? Ugh, golly, what's up with me? The making connections with these vendors. Were these people you already knew? I mean, clearly the venue you already knew them.
A lot of them we already knew. One of my really good friends, Greg, works at Vivid Ink, who provided all of our signage. That he facilitated a great deal with Steven, the owner. Our big 3D stage prop was done by Lamar Graphics. They own and run a 3D printing shop that was in kind. Yeah, there it is, right there with Brian.
Yeah. And okay, that's him who did the oh, cool.
Yeah. My friend Becky, she's part of AdFed. She's the president of AdFed, so she facilitated that. My buddy Drew facilitated the VIP lunch for Mike and all the main day speakers. Fed them real good, I hope.
So let's tell people what it was. So it was one day of workshops, and the workshops were in a really big room, and anybody could go. So kind of tell it was different than maybe some other conferences. So tell them kind of the basic.
Yeah, we wanted to keep things simple as it was our first year, and whenever we decided to add the workshops, we'd seen the a la carte model, and I mean, personally, like I can see the benefit of it, especially if you're wanting to pick and choose. But in the spirit of keeping things simple, we wanted to just have 2 price points. We wanted to have a 2-day ticket and a single-day ticket. So what we ended up doing is making the workshop day kind of like a school day style, where you have classes from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. or whatever. Part of that was to keep things simple, but part of it was also to, I always try really hard to like not hurt feelings or step on toes, and like I always want people to be as happy as I can possibly make them. So one thing we didn't want to do is we didn't want to stagger it to where 70 people can sign up for this class, but 4 people sign up for this. We wanted to treat it like a school block schedule, and like, if you want to go all day, go all day. If you want to go take a 2-hour break, go do that kind of thing. So that's how we structure the workshops. And honestly, the majority of the people stayed the whole time, and they were troopers, because we crammed 7 workshops into one day, and then a kickoff party. So the kickoff party was well received after a day of hard work.
So, but you couldn't keep everybody in those workshops. So there were only a limited number of 2-day tickets, correct?
Right. There were like roughly 120 2-day tickets. So, we had 120 people in the workshops all day Thursday. And then the kickoff party opened up that night, and everybody was invited to that, obviously. Right. And that was really great. And the next day was our full day of main speakers in the theater. Okay.
So in the workshop, this was not in the same venue though, right? So you had to get another venue for this.
Right. So this workshop right here, this is at Creative Block, which is a co-working space in Baton Rouge. Some friends of ours own it and run it and do a great job. And another in-kind sponsor, they sponsored the space for free, which was huge for us. Like, this is their production studio. They rent this out to television shows and, movies and whatnot. So we were able to, take it and transform it into a big, studio classroom setting. And, like, everybody, like, it was whisper quiet in there, like, people were paying attention, they were engaged, and it was really great.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay. So what other areas were critical if you were telling somebody, say, in another part of the world or another whatever city or state, if they wanted to create something like this, what other areas were critical to your success? Was it donations? Was it volunteers? What?
The donations and sponsorships, both in kind and monetary, were huge. You really can't get by without that. Volunteers were amazing. They really stepped up and did a great job. And like having genuine volunteers is something else. Like people that really just want to help. Like we had a girl that just like worked her butt off and wasn't even a designer. She's like, yeah, just like helping things, and like she crushed it. Like she was so good. Um, that's very instrumental. Um, just having a good solid plan. Like as efficiently as you can lay things out and plan. The easier it's going to be for other people to pick up and help you with it. So having your head on straight is absolutely important.
So in any part, this is not one of my questions. So
Okay.
if you don't want to answer, you can just be like, no, we're not answering the question. Did you
Okay.
ever have like a face down moment that you were like, oh my gosh, I can't do this?
Oh yeah, I had a few. I mean, even the initial conversation I had with Ariadna about it, like back in like January of 2015, like it felt so unattainable. Like it felt so big to me, um, to just want to get like 75 people. Like that felt like insurmountable. Um, and then like it grew to this, and like that felt like something to overcome. So yeah, I mean, I definitely had those moments where like it felt like a lot, but I think luckily being a designer and all the grief that we put up with and have to overcome, like all those roadblocks you have where like you're waiting for that epiphany moment. And then
Mm-hmm.
like I start every logo project like that too. Like I feel so lost. I'm like, oh man, like what am I gonna do? And then it comes to you, and then you just coast and you cruise through it. And it was a lot like that with any stumbling blocks that we had. It was another puzzle to solve.
Gotcha. So Johnny asked, can we find your bands online?
Johnny Glenn, I'll send them to you personally.
All right. So, um, the, I already kind of asked you about marketing it, and how much were you using? It sounded like your PR guy was doing a lot for you in that, but were you using any social media tools? Because again, if you're doing local, you're getting the ad fed people locally, but you're not maybe reaching as broad as what you ended up getting. You weren't like reaching for Wisconsin, but you got people from Wisconsin and Utah. So what kind of social media were you marketing were you doing?
It was really just my account and like our team members' accounts. We didn't necessarily ask the speakers to do any kind of promoting. A couple of them
Mm-hmm.
did. Brian Steely put something out. That was really big because he's got a really broad reach. But like I think team wise, you know we didn't have that big of a reach, so we were just kind of doing things through our own feeds, and you know well, luckily a couple others picked it up, and that broadened the word for sure.
So how early are you having? Because if I'm taking a trip and I have to
Mhm.
plan hotel and getting there, travel, it's best if I'm kind of planning this a few months in advance. How early were you trying? I mean, granted, you had told people way early, but when were you pushing more? Was it 3 months in advance? A month in advance?
Um, that's kind of well, I guess our main push was in October.
Okay.
Honestly, I mean, like I knew our entire lineup in March of 2015. Like I'd pretty much spoken to everyone and got everyone on board.
Mhm.
And then I had to keep that secret until October, which was brutal. Um, but so October gave people a good, let's see, that's October, November, December. That gives people a good 6 months to ask off for work.
Mhm.
To plan flights like ahead of time while they're a little bit more affordable. So I kind of felt like October was a sweet spot. And it kind of gave a little bit of buffer in between, like holiday budgets, like to where like
Mhm.
you announce it, but they're like, oh, sorry, I've got to buy the kiddos Christmas presents, or
Right. Right. So did you give up vacation, like you and Ariadna going to the beach somewhere, whatever, to do this?
Ariadna and I have not been to the beach in 5 years, and
Well, whatever
yeah,
kind of vacation you like
as
to go
as soon as she hears this, she's gonna be like, "You're right. We do need to go to the beach." We don't typically do vacations. Like our vacation is going back to Baton Rouge.
Mm,
Like I go back a lot personally. Like about every 8 weeks or so.
mhm.
Um, but the main time off that we use is to go down there and spend time with family and friends. So that's our vacation essentially.
All right, so Johnny asked a question, and then I'm going to get to Mike's question. So, Mike, I'm
Okay.
not leaving you out. Will you be increasing the size of crop next year? More VIPs? What was the VIP ratio to the total and general ticket person?
Okay. So yeah, we had about 120, 125 VIP tickets,
Hmm.
which means we had about 200 general admissions to balance out the 325 some.
And the VIPs were the 2 days,
Yeah,
or were those
VIPs were the 2 days.
okay? And then what about like how many? And one thing else, me and you talked about this before, was all of your workshop people were all local. So
Yes.
you weren't having to fly in and the cost was deferred. So really using your local talent. And then for the extra people that were coming, you were just really paying for 1 or 2 nights, two
hmm
nights probably, and then their travel. So, but it was a much smaller pool because you weren't having to pay for every workshop person.
Right. Our workshops really worked out with being local. We did have one guy from San Antonio, Kyle Adams, who is God. He's an amazing icon designer. He's a frequent creative souther, and he reached out to us and wanting to do a workshop, and I kind of explained to him it's our first year. We'd love to have you, but luckily he's real good friends with another one of our workshoppers, Winston Scully, and they were able to bunk up together. So yeah, the workshops worked out great, and then the main days, like that's where a good bit of budget goes to, accommodating everybody and giving speaking fees and whatnot, and it's kind of a yeah, it's a balance. It's all a big balance.
All right, so let's get to Mike's questions and then let's show some pictures. I have a picture. Um, and okay, I can't understand what Johnny was saying. Sorry.
Can't either.
I yeah, I'm not even gonna try. Okay, I'm pulling up this image. I think Michael like this. Well, I hope he likes the image. But this is Mike asking this question to you. What are the most exhausting? What it is, or what are the most exhausting parts of being a new conference planner? And
Um,
that's Mike.
yeah, that's Mike's question. The most exhausting parts, checklisting everything. To
Mm,
me, that was the most exhausting part because I would spend hours on end thinking that I had ticked every box. And then, luckily for me, Ariadna would have her list and there'd be like 10 things that I missed. So, I mean, like, no matter what you think you have taken care of, like, you've really got to like triple, quadruple check it. Um, that was to me that was the most exhausting thing because like it also all happens at crunch time, like it all
mm.
happens within like the 2 weeks leading up to so all those facts and figures and is this done, is that done, is that done, that to me was like very mentally exhausting.
All right. So, what are your biggest challenges? And I kind of am seconding this with the second part of question 8 was what things did you not know to plan for that you could tell somebody to look out for? So, biggest challenges and what did you not know?
Well, we did a couple things by the seat of our pants this year, and I don't know
Like what?
how well. you know uh South Louisiana weather is a very, very fickle being.
You can control the weather in Atlanta?
Uh,
That's awesome. Just not in South
well,
Louisiana?
it can be beautiful one minute and then just be, like a downpour the next. Um, our kickoff party, we didn't account for rain. Luckily, there was a tent there for a wedding the next day,
Ah.
but it actually did end up raining that night. So it crowded everybody under the tent, which luckily made for like a nice little dance party. Um, But, like accounting for things like that, like if it's within your budget, you probably should, you should think about anything that can go wrong. If you can afford to make it more comfortable for your attendees, that's huge. We didn't have any alternate speakers, which I'm not sure if that's a thing. I've been meaning to ask Mike. Mike, is that a thing? Having like a, having like an
Somebody
alternate, somebody on deck.
He said yes.
Okay, good. Because see, we didn't do that. So what I was doing, I was checking all of y'all's travel patterns and weather patterns for everywhere people were coming from. And I'm like, okay, well, Amy and Jen are gonna get here. Like it's gonna be fine. Like there's no rain. It's no delays at this place or that place. And that was, we were super blessed that everybody got there safely, and nobody had to miss or be delayed or anything. But it could have, I would have been up there myself filling somebody's slot talking about type combinations.
Right. Which is super cool, by the way.
But I think next year we'll plan a little bit more for that, for sure.
Okay, so biggest challenge? Do you think you answered that question? I mean, I feel like you did. Just planning for the things you don't know. Okay. And then Mike wanted to know, with a wink, why April?
Why April?
So for people who don't know, Creative South is always like the first full weekend in April. But it is planning when. I think so. This is a great question, actually, of if you're planning on doing it for in another city. Mm-hmm. What are all the things you had to deal with planning it in Baton Rouge? Well,
and it's exactly that. It's very city specific. The thing with Louisiana, and I mean, I've said this. I'm very well versed in this explanation, so I'll go ahead and get to it. In the beginning of the year, January through March, you have Mardi Gras to deal with. So venues are booked. People can't make it for this or that. They have balls to go to. They have parades to go to. They have charity functions to go to. March to May, June is a pretty sweet spot. There's not a whole lot going on. You've got obviously you've got LSU graduation and Southern and Southeastern. So you've got some stuff going on in May, but like March to June is a pretty open area.
And weather-wise, a little bit better.
Weather-wise, a little bit better. And then the summer, I don't know if anybody ever spent a summer in South Louisiana, but it can be pretty brutal. So, if you're wanting to have outdoor events where people actually enjoy themselves and don't melt, you don't really do something in the summer. And then you've got fall, which I don't know if there are any LSU Tiger fans out there. Some other Tiger fans out there, but you can't do anything in the fall with LSU football. I mean, I feel so bad for the girls that get married during fall, and like everybody's huddled around the TV, like if their wedding happens to fall on a game day.
If they go.
Yeah.
Go to the wedding. I'm sorry. We've got tickets.
Yeah. And then you've got the holidays. So really like that was kind of our only window. And I never wanted it to be that close to Creative South, but I feel like we're kind of fortunate to at least be, the majority in that time frame, because like there are a whole lot in the fall. There's so many in the fall. I feel like it's easy to go to Creative South and Crop, because I'm not going to miss Creative South. I'm just not. But it seems like in the fall you have a lot more to, maybe have to like pick between, that sort of thing.
He said he was proud to share April with you.
Well, good. I'm proud.
Brother. So
I appreciate it.
He gave another wink.
Yeah.
So, all right. So, what will you do differently next year? And is there something about the structure that you would change? Will you have a backup speaker?
We'll probably, my biggest thing for events, Ariadna and I have been planning events for 10 years. And the biggest lesson I've learned is to not overextend yourself after a first successful year. We've seen way too many events, kind of falter because they didn't they didn't piggyback on the lessons that they learned. They just gave themselves a whole new set of lessons to learn because they tried to go bigger and better. You know, we want to continually add value. We want to make sure that it's something that people want to go to. You know, we want to polish any, you know, any areas that need improving that we saw in this year. And yeah, we'll probably do little things like weather maintenance and backup speakers. And you
But
know,
those are good.
yeah, we want to gradually build. We don't want it to be you know, a completely reinventing the wheel thing, because I don't really think we need to at this point.
Right.
You know, like, I just want to, if it ain't broke, don't break it, kind of deal.
Right. Okay, so I want to look at some of your work, and
Okay.
I want to ask you what's next. So maybe you can talk us through some of these pieces, and then we can kind of see, and you can kind of let us know what, because it kind of gives, it seems like I don't know if you feel like you're an introvert or an extrovert, but it seems like you're very social, and you really are passionate about people and very passionate about design. So it's like crop lets you get passion with people and design, but people,
Sure.
and then your design work is just amazing. So
Thank you.
anyway, so let's talk about it.
Okay, so the piece we have up right now, that was for an AIGA poster show that we had here in Atlanta. Actually, Jason Craig and Daniel Hare and Scott Fuller and I, we all ended up being finalists in it. So like we got to all go to a little party together. But you know, it garnered like a lot of you know, a lot of attention. People really gravitated towards it. So I ended up kind of pushing it a little bit further, and I gave it a companion. I gave it a vinyl companion. And what I'm going to do with them, a lot of people at Creative South got stickers, but I'm in the process of turning them into prints. These are actually going to be the prints that we're seeing right now. It's a different color scheme. It's kind of a yin and yang thing for both of them. But yeah, these will be the first prints that you know, Ariana and I are going to start selling. We're going to try to do a little online store with these guys going up first. Trying to find a printer right now. So any recommendations, let us know.
Cool. All right. So this is the crop logo. Do you want to talk a little bit about maybe why you decided on the word crop? Because we never really talked about that too.
Well, it comes down to the whole aspect of, like, you know, creating a pleasing composition. You know, like you crop it down to like its most effective, you know, core kind of thing. And also, you know, I guess the double entendre is that it brings something together. So, you know, it felt like an appropriate name. And then the crop mark itself, the little C, there's actually an L and an A in it. So it was pretty, you know, pretty serendipitous that happened as well. Yeah. And
then did you hand letter that, or did someone, or?
No, it's a modified script, but you know, I felt like the initial mark is very much like my taste, but you know, in something that has to appeal to a broad range of, you know, attendees. You know, I had to kind of give up what I would really like. Luckily, it fit together. But
yeah.
And then this is the logo type for 2017. It's all based off of the initial crop mark. It's like the same grid structure and pattern, and this will be what we use for a lot of our 2017 branding.
Cool. And those are the dates: April 20th through the 21st.
Yeah.
So if anybody wants to know,
Thursday and Friday.
When will the tickets be available?
Probably not till October again. Yeah, I'm doing a lot of planning right now. I'm trying to get majority of some branding stuff done ahead of time. That way I'll have kind of more, you know, more time to look at other aspects that, you know, need attention or focus. But. So
Johnny's asking about early birds. So are you going to go to a bigger venue, or are you going to stay in the same venue and keep the same size?
I can't really say right now. We're gonna keep things simple, but I think we are we are planning on accommodating more people in some ways.
Oh, booger snot.
Booger snot.
No, what happened? Boogers. I guess I shouldn't ask that question. And we'll be leaving. And remember, today's program was brought to you by Afterbite. I'm hoping he'll come back. That's what I'm just doing. But this is, for anybody who missed the very early beginning before I was recording, Afterbite helps with red ant bites. Oh, there he's back. Come on, Matt. Don't forget your Afterbite. If you're going to get bit this summer, this stuff rocks. Thanks to my mom. Mailing list. I'm giving it all. Here, let me put it down while he tries to add back in. If you want to get in touch with Matt, you can look at his awesome work on Dribbble, but you can also look at it at staygrayponyboy.com. And then I'm going to get all the rest. And then if you want to go and get on the mailing list, which you can go to crop.la. And you can also get on the mailing list there. You can also follow at crop.la on Instagram or Stay Gray Ponyboy on Instagram. And I'm going to put that booger up right now. Oh no, he keeps flaking out. I see his little egg pop up. He told me the only reason he has a Twitter account is for Design Recharge, which I super am thankful for. Him and my mom. Everybody else has a brand or a picture, which I think is hilarious. Thank you, guys. Thanks, Mike, for coming. So just so you know, Forefathers group. I'm so sorry. I have the seat locked. Okay, now you can. So sorry. He's texting me. I'm like, oh, why won't he call back? I'm so sorry.
Oh, I thought I broke it. Okay.
I had the seat locked because sometimes people call in and it's distracting to me. And so, but I can open it up if anybody wants to, other people want to. So Mike had to go, but he said, great job, and took away some great nuggets. So, all right. And I was sharing all of ways, and I don't know if you heard me, but I did talk about Afterbite.
Cool.
But
you gotta get the sponsor recognition.
I know for sure. But signing up for the newsletter or the mailing list, they can go at crop.la.
Right. Crop.la. We've got we took down our main site and we've just got like a mailing list up there right now. We're working on like a highlight reel that should be up soon, and then the new site will be up probably end of summer. Okay,
and then they can follow you or crop.la, and then I told them about that on Instagram. And I think that was it. And I was telling people next week we're going to have Forefathers, and I'm old school. I use whatever these things are called. So I've already Ashley, who's still here, is amazing and does all the scheduling. And so this is January. It's the whole year is in these. And if you notice, I haven't written them all in yet, but like I've got them all. Well, she's actually filled through December. So I mean, and I only do one in December. But
are you going to get all? Are you going to get all of them? All Forefathers?
Yeah. Yes. And it's not 4. But FORE, yes.
Right.
So Amir is going to join in, and then Jondon and Matt are all going to come. And since I was at this conference for AIGA this week, I had to do their test like on Monday, which it's a little bit early. But anyway, you guys need to check out Matt's work. And if you don't know, I mean, it's just you have a really good range and a wide range, and it's just you all the work. It's like it makes me proud to be a designer to see the work you do, because it's like, man, that is so cool.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's all. I put the majority of stuff on Instagram. I've said before I need to be better at Dribbble, but if you really kind of want to see what I'm up to, it's all on Instagram, all out there.
It's nice. And Amy, I caught that Slack message, and I've got a little bit more work to do, but I will text you or something and figure out where we can meet. And I don't know if you want to eat dinner or whatever, but so Ashley's talking to Fabio right now. So about checking his email. So Kent wants to know, and he's the one in Mississippi,
Okay.
are crop and CS17 really very similar? I may have to choose for the students. He works at Mississippi College, and he brings students over. So
Mhm.
what would you say would be the selling point for crop? And then we can ask Mike at some time about the selling point for Creative South.
Well, I can't really put one over the other, you know. But
Well, how
I
are you
think
different then? How are you different?
we're just different, honestly, in venues and in cities. Like Columbus is great. They've got a lot of really cool stuff to do. If you've never been to Louisiana, they've got a really great culture down there. The conferences themselves, like they're similar in what you get out of it.
And
Obviously,
culture-wise, similar.
culture-wise, similar too. It's very much like they're both very community driven.
Mm-hmm.
It's ultimately just what's best for your students. If either one has something that's more beneficial for the group, then it's a tough question to answer.
Yeah, it is a
Yeah.
tough question. So, yeah, Baton Rouge is, and I had told him this before, Kent, that it was 3 hours of a drive, so it's a lot closer. So, what about like topics? Is that something that you try to be range of? Like you try to do UX UI, you try to do, or are you just trying to find designers that are just amazing and inspiring?
Well, we want it to be a mix of both, and that's kind of what we're doing with the 17 lineup. I think any of those are more focused areas can probably be more directly applied through the workshops.
Mm-hmm.
I think as far as like our main days, like we wanted to have like a good spectrum, but most of the time, like what I like to get out of a main day event is like inspiration. And hey, you know what, this guy walked down the same road I did.
Mm-hmm.
He's had the same ups and downs. She's dealt with this, dealt with that. So I think, and I think that can come from anybody. That can come from a UX designer. It can come from a copywriter. It can come from anybody.
Right.
It's
Right.
just stories and experiences.
So he says he wants to get them in the graphic designer culture and out of their small market. And I definitely agree with that even in Mobile. So I feel like smaller towns, I think either conference would be really good for somebody who's coming from a really kind of small environment because it's very safe.
Sure.
It's not, the cities aren't overwhelming, and the people that are coming to these conferences are nice and friendly, and the speakers are very approachable and very mentor-like, I think.
Yeah, very much so. And like the great thing about CS and crop is, I said this to so many people, like, well, like they come up to ask me if they could go talk to them. Like, yeah, you should. I mean, definitely go talk to them. Like go ask them a question.
Right.
Go take a picture with them. Like that's so cool for anybody that like is maybe if you're in a rut, or if you're kind of stuck, feeling a certain way, like like go buddy up next to one of your heroes and realize that like you're really not all that different.
Right. Absolutely. All right. Well, Matt, thank you so much. And I'm so thankful that you were so flexible to be
Yeah,
able to do this. And I'm really glad. I'm really, really proud of you. And
thank you so much.
just wish you so much luck with crop. I think that it is hard to kind of, you have a lot of things going on in Baton Rouge. LSU football, you have Mardi
Yeah,
Gras, we have the same sort of thing, except we just don't have the football. But people are gone because they're going to Alabama games, Auburn, or
true.
something like that, or LSU.
LSU.
So, yeah. So I just want to tell you thank you. I really appreciate your friendship, and I'm really just looking forward to getting to know you even better. And your work is just amazing. So thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
All right, guys. Well, I'll see you next week. Same time, regular spot. Won't have the nice clean walls behind me. It will be at regular spot, so regular time with the Forefathers group. So it'll be packed. There won't be any images shown. All the images are going to be below on the website. So if you want to catch this or any other, if you want to look up some old episodes, you can check it out at rechargingyou.com, or you can always email me at Diane at designrecharge.org or Diane at rechargingyou.com. Anyway, thanks, guys, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good one.